The question is, why is it so that good people have to suffer the most? Why is it so that good people have to suffer the most? How many of you think it is so, or have even seen it happening in your surroundings, that good people suffer? Alright, so there are a few others besides her who think that way. Kirti, man can exist, all of us can exist in three distinct states. The first state, the lowest, the lowermost one, is that of the stone that has zero consciousness, absolutely no understanding of what is going on. It understands nothing, not at all, and it does not suffer at all. It does not suffer at all. Getting it? For a stone, for a wall, for an inanimate thing, there obviously can be nothing called suffering. If you don't find most people suffering, the reason is not that they are particularly joyful. The reason is that they are so deeply unconscious that they do not even know that they are suffering. It's like a part of your body having gone numb. What happens before a surgeon operates on you? He gives you an anesthesia. Assume he gives you a local anesthesia, he has to operate your hand. Now your hand has gone numb. It's gone senseless. Whatsoever is done to it, there would be no suffering, no pain. Now does that mean that actually nothing is wrong with the hand? A lot is happening to the hand. It is being torn open. But then you don't feel the suffering because your sensitivity has been taken away. That is the stage at which the stone exists, at a level of deep insensitivity. 99% of us exist at the level of the stone. We are so deeply insensitive to ourselves that we do not even know that we are suffering. That we do not even know that we are suffering. The first event that takes place when you start becoming a little conscious, when somebody, some force awakens you up, is that you discover your suffering. So suffering is nothing but an indication that you are waking up. Suffering is nothing but an indication that you are gaining some sensitivity. Does that mean that awakening, alertness, intelligence necessarily means a life of suffering? Well, no, just initially. Just initially. That is the intermediate stage, when you are just opening your eyes, when your senses are just becoming functional again, that you feel a lot of pain. And then comes the highest stage, the stage of the awakened human being, the intelligent human being. He again does not suffer. You see, all of you would have read of the Buddha's Noble Truths, right? And which one is the first one? The world is full of suffering, which is called the Dukkha principle, that the world is full of suffering. Now, why does the Buddha need to assert that the world is full of suffering? Please understand this. Because most of us do not even know that we are suffering. So the Buddha has to start off by saying first thing that, boss, look at yourself, you are suffering. And then we say, we are suffering? Are we? I don't think I am suffering. I am alright. I come to the college, I spend life like everybody else does. Where is suffering in all this? There is a great deal of pain, but it is not translating into recognized suffering because our senses have become dysfunctional, paralyzed due to repeated assaults upon them. You know, if somebody takes your hand and repeatedly hits it with a weapon, say something blunt, you will feel a lot of pain initially. But after a while, your hand will go so numb that somebody may keep beating it and beating it and beating it. You will not feel anything. Are you getting it? And it becomes a way of life with you. You do not feel that you are suffering. You do not feel that you are suffering. Only the intelligent ones, the sensitive ones, they recognize that suffering. They come in contact with that suffering. So Kabir had to say that सुखिया सब संसार है, खावे और सोए, दुखिया दास कबीर है, जागे और रोए. Mark his words. सुखिया सब संसार है, खावे और सोए. The entire world is not experiencing any suffering. It's just consuming and sleeping. But Kabir has woken up to that suffering. दुखिया दास कबीर है, जागे और रोए. Because he has awakened, hence he is crying. Only the awakened one cries. The stone does not cry. The stone cannot cry. Living in constant torture has become a way of life with us. Do you want to know how we suffer? Don't you experience confusion and boredom? But then boredom has become such an everlasting thing with us that we do not even call it suffering. We are bored all the time. Many of you would be bored sitting over here. In fact, most of you. And is there anything that does not bore you? Is there anything that livens you up? Hardly anything. You are frustrated, bored, energyless, and don't you think this is nothing but suffering? But we will not call it suffering because we have not known any other state of living. You see, black can be called as black only when one has seen white. Because you have known no other mode of existence except suffering, so you do not even call it suffering. There was an interesting case. A woman was born with headache. Ever since she was a little kid, she had a permanent headache. And it was not detected. When she was fairly young, the doctors accidentally discovered that she is having a continuous headache. And they asked her, "Don't you feel bad?" She said, "I have no headache. This is how I am and it's alright. There is no headache." You can recognize a headache only when you have known at least a few moments of living without headache. Then only in comparison and contrast to that can you recognize headache. We live lives of such constant and unmitigated, uninterrupted suffering that we do not even realize that we are suffering. We are restless, we cannot sit silently, our thoughts keep wandering, and that's happening even right now. We keep fidgeting, and don't you see it is suffering? We keep looking for entertainment. It's a Saturday, we must have entertainment. And don't you see that a hunt for entertainment is a sure sign of boredom from life? Don't you see that looking for so much of entertainment is suffering? Don't you see that being ambitious is suffering? Because ambition is a sure sign of discomfort from the present moment. Don't you see an obsession with results is suffering? Don't you see an inability to stay with yourself alone is suffering? And we all live in that mode, but we don't call it suffering. We live in perpetual suffering. That's the reason why the Buddha had to assert first thing, the world is full of suffering. What it didn't say was, the world doesn't even know that it is suffering. The world doesn't even call it suffering. But you may not know that you are suffering. However, life will keep on becoming hell. I may not know that I have cancer, but cancer will keep on doing what it does. Are you getting it? So what you call as suffering of the good person is nothing but the sensitivity that is awakened in an intelligent being. And that will necessarily happen. You are comfortably sleeping. You are secure in your relationships, in your hopes, dreams, ambitions. When you open your eyes and you see the falseness of all this, it will hurt. It will hurt a little. But that hurt is a very, very good sign. Welcome that hurt. That hurt means that you are alive. If that hurt comes to you, it means you are alive. You have been carrying all kinds of rubbish, thinking it to be precious. When you see for the first time that this is not precious, that I have been duped and deceived, I have been made to carry these things, I have been forced to carry these things, I have been conditioned to carry these things, but they are not precious. You feel a little hurt. But it's alright. Only when you see that it is not precious will you drop it, and then the really precious can come to you. So this hurt will open the doors. It's alright, let it be there. The good man, so-called, suffers, but it's his suffering that's a proof of his vitality, of his being. Alright? And that suffering is far better than khawe and soe. Does that give you certain clarity? Yeah?
Sir, actually, I have a religious family, and everyone believes in God and everything. Till the case of Nirvana, I was certain that there exists God. After a case had come up, then because whatever I read in newspaper that she was always full of hope, always ambitious in life, and what happened to her, and that brought my trust in God to her. That is why I put up that question.
All right. Next question, please. Yes.
So is being emotional bad even when you know deep inside that people take advantage of this situation?
What's your name?
So Umashish.
Huh?
Umashish Bose.
Umashish. Umashish is asking, is being emotional bad? I equate it to a question asking me, sir, is X negative? He's asking me, sir, is being emotional bad? That's akin to a question in basic maths asking us, is X negative? Now how do I know? How do I declare X to be positive or negative if I do not understand X? To call X positive or negative or anything, I must first know what X is. Otherwise, passing a judgment is fruitless. Nonsensical. What is emotion? All of you use this word so regularly. Emotion. Do you understand what is emotion? What is emotion? Do you understand? Something that the Hindi film hero is fond of talking of? Something that resides in the heart? And you put all your biology to shame? You forget that heart is a blood pumping organ? What is emotion? And why must we give it such a central place in our lives? You know, we have been trained to give a lot of value to emotion. It is possible we may not give that kind of value to thought, even understanding, but to emotion we give a lot of value. The moment we see tears, we are moved. Being emotional is considered a sign of being authentic, real. And all this happens without any understanding of what this thing called emotion is. What is thought? What is thought? Thought is the activity of the mind. Simple, right? Thought is aroused due to an external influence. Thought is activity of the mind. Are you getting it? It is aroused by an external stimulus. So you see something, that arises a thought. Thought feeds upon memories which are stored in the brain. Thought feeds upon memories. This same thought, when it intensifies and starts having an effect on the body as well, that is what you called as emotion. Emotion is nothing but the effect of thought upon the body. Emotion is thought. Till the time the effect does not become visible in the body, you do not call it emotion. But the moment the effect becomes intense, your cheek flush up with blood and become pink, or your hands start shivering, or your eyes get wet, then you say this is emotion. But this is nothing but thought. There can be no emotion without thought. There can be no emotion without thought. Thought changes, emotion changes. Thought goes away, emotion goes away. And because all thought comes from an external stimulus, all emotion is also external. There is nothing sacred about emotion. Not at all. So, when you say that emotional people are exploited and taken advantage of, that is bound to happen. That is bound to happen. Because emotion is thought and all thought comes from an external agency. No thought is really your thought. Understanding can be yours. Thought can't be. And whosoever is implanting that thought inside your mind is surely becoming your master, and hence he will be able to exploit you. So whosoever is emotional or whosoever lives on these borrowed thoughts is bound to become a slave. What forms do these thoughts take? Our beliefs, for example. We think they are our beliefs, whereas they have all been given to us by external agencies. Our religion, our worldview, our thoughts about career and family, our nationalism. It's all been handed over to us from outside, and hence all of this results in our exploitation. See, what is not yours, and you start identifying with it. Someone else has given it to you, obviously you will be exploited. Someone comes and gives a thought to you that you are brilliant. Someone else comes and gives a thought to you. He says you are brilliant. And what does your mind do? It internalizes that statement. Someone says you are brilliant and you start believing I am brilliant. And then you are prone to exploitation because now that person has become your master. Your brilliance resides in his hands. He has given you your self-esteem. He has given you your self-concept that you are brilliant. So you will become his slave because he can also take your sense of brilliance away. He has told you that you are brilliant, so he can also take your self-concept away. That is why most of you are so afraid of public speaking. None of you would be afraid of speaking at your home, alone or in front of a mirror. But faced with an audience, you start shivering. Have you tried to understand why? Because your sense of yourself comes from others. So you are afraid that they may take it back. So you are afraid that they may take it back. Your thought that I am somebody has been given to you by others. It is not a product of your understanding. Others have just handed it over to you. So you are all the time worried and afraid that these same people can also call me a nobody, a mean fellow, a worthless fellow. So faced with an audience, you become very nervous. And these are things of your daily life. Suffering. But you won't call it suffering. You'll give it some other name. Are you getting it? Thoughts, emotions, they are all means of the external to control you, to exploit you. Only a man of deep intelligence lives freely. Others are bound to become slaves of the outside. All your thoughts about yourself, look into them. They come from the outside. Your name, your religion, your self-esteem, your sense of who you are, all your identities, they all come from the outside. And because the outside has given them, the outside can also take it back. So you are afraid all the time and you become a slave of the outside. Please don't take the recognition back. Please don't take the identity back. Please let me be something. Do you see now why this exploitation is inevitable? It would happen. If you are not vigilant, if you are not careful, then this exploitation is bound to happen. Yes.
So if anyone is trying to hurt me, maligning my image and mock of me, and each time they hit me, I leave them off the hook. I don't bother them. But then they think that I'm weak. I cannot do anything to harm them. So my question is that what should my behavior towards them and how should I act?
What's your name?
So Rishabh.
Rishabh, there are two parts to what you are saying, and what you are saying happens with everybody. Every person, each single one of us here experiences this. There are forces out there that want to harm us, hurt us. Firstly, what do I do with myself? Secondly, what do I do with them? Firstly, recognize that others can only take away from you what others have given you. Are you getting this? Others have the power to take away only that which is not central and essential. So when you say somebody hurts me, when you say somebody hurts me, it only means that you have allowed that person to hurt you. Nobody can enslave you, nobody can hurt you without your consent. All of us who are sitting here have a history of hurt. There is nobody who can say that I have never been hurt. All of us have a sense of victimization at some point or the other. That, I was given a raw deal. Something went wrong. But we don't see that nothing can go wrong really unless we allow it. We say the society dominates us, we say the family dominates us, we are not able to do what we want to do. But we don't realize that nobody can take away our essential freedom unless we trade it away, unless we sell it off. Unless we sell it off. How is it possible that an external force is able to hurt you, to exercise control over you? How is it possible? It is possible only because you had an expectation. It is not possible to be hurt without expectation. And expectation means acting as a beggar. Expectation means that I am deficient and you are someone who give me something. I am walking around with a begging bowl, I am incomplete, I am deficient. Now this very sense of deficiency has been given to you by these external forces. You see, today all of you have aims and aspirations and everything. Don't you see how these came to you? Somewhere out there, there is this society that keeps telling you that unless you have respectability and position and money in life, your life is worthless. First thing that the society tells you is that unless you have respectability, reputation and money in life, your life is worthless. The second thing the society tells you is only I can give you, only we can give you money, respectability, reputation. Now combine these two statements and what do you get? First, society tells you that your life is worthless unless you have respectability, money, power. Second thing the society tells you is only we can give you that power, respectability and money. So you combine these two and what you get is that come to us and bow down. Only I can make your life worth it. Do you see this? First of all, someone tells you that you must have this if you want to make something in your life. Second thing he tells is only I can give this to you. So essentially what that fellow is telling you is you come and become dependent on me. And to become dependent is to become open to exploitation. And that is where this feeling of hurt comes from. Unless you become dependent, unless you raise an expectation from somebody, nobody can have the power to hurt you. You give that power to that person. Don't give that power. Don't give that power. Don't let your self-esteem, don't let your sense of self stay with others. Are you getting it? Second part, what do I do with that person who wants to hurt me? What do you do with a madman? What do you do with a madman? What do you do with a fellow who's not in his senses and is hurling abuses at you and throwing stones in the air? What do you do? Just avoid. You don't start feeling hurt. You don't start crying. In fact, it is fun if you can just watch it. There is no question of feeling offended, feeling hurt. But you will feel hurt the moment you are provoked, the moment you give him control over yourself. Remain at a little distance and watch the drama. Let it happen. The person is too full of himself, he is not in his senses, and most of us are not in our senses most of the times. How is one to live in such a society? How is one to live with these kinds of friends and family? Just watch what is going on. And in that watching, you become capable of helping the other as well. If a mad fellow is able to make you mad, you can't even help that person. Only when you are in your senses, only when you are acting intelligently, will you be able to help someone. Madness provokes madness. Do not let yourself be provoked.
So what if other people around you accompany that madman?
It's a group of madmen. It's a group of madmen. How does it matter? Singular turns into plural. That's it. Nothing else. Nothing else. But you see, before we declare anybody else to be mad, we first have to be in senses ourselves. Before we declare anybody else to be mad or the entire society to be mad, we must be able to look at that madness, clearly identify its ways ourselves. If we are unable to do that, then there is no point calling others mad and living in a world of delusion and such things. Alright?